Good morning, friends, loyal audience, for this ad hoc rantings program, video, internet show. Today's subject is the believers, those who believe something. No, today's subject is the delusional. Uh, Delusional here means those who believe something and with probably good intentions and high hopes and expectations, but they're wrong, right? So here goes. There are those, and I put this in a tweet out, but today I'm going to elaborate on it a little bit. There are those who truly believe, that by appeasing Pustalini, that they avoid larger scale conflict and unnecessary conflicts or bloody conflicts, or simply they cannot stand or withstand a larger conflict and they don't want to have problems on their hands. They don't want to be the cause of a wider war or World War III, if you will, and so on and so forth. I don't hope for that, folks. But sometimes there's no choice when some deranged ones like Pustalinin and Hitler and whoever it is start murdering people and destroying civilization and putting people back into the Stone Age and want to reinstate Animal Farm under the ownership of, whoever it is and so on. Then sometimes then you cannot be more wrong. Then you have no choice but to really you cannot be more wrong about you trying to avoid wider conflicts or trying to stay out of trouble and not participate in the burgeoning or the incident of a wider conflict and so on. You may think you're avoiding trouble. You cannot be more wrong, folks. Appeasing Pustalini is a mistake, is a fateful, detrimental mistake. Appeasing Pustalini. Now, give me this. Ukraine already won. But now know this, that NATO, EU, USA, China, Israel on top of them are trying like desperately to reverse the course of action. I said this all along, that they're going to try to reformulate the offensive and avoid their mistakes and so on. They already had one attempt, like they wanted to come and commit a pincer. Oh boy, these guys have a problem, have a big problem. Not just one. I would say they have so many. But nonetheless, the idea is this is not a military parade that you average, ordinary European citizens are sitting down and watching on the sidewalk and watching move through, because this is as deadly as it gets. This is like you seeing a big anaconda or python or a gigantic snake, poisonous black mamba, cobra move into your house, and you just step aside and allow it to move in. That's what you're doing if you appease the Pustalinins. That's what you are doing, basically. Excuse me. Right? That's what you are doing. And eventually, that anaconda, that python, and now don't mistake it for this python. This is a programming language by a Dutch guy. Guido van Rossum, benevolent dictator for life. Hey, Guido, I don't like the idea of you using spacing and indentation as delimiters. I like curly brackets to define the scope. Anyways, that's not our subject. But hey, that's a replacement for parent. Anyways, that said, you guys cannot deceive yourself about what's coming your way. You may think you know more than I do. No, you don't, Fox. What's coming your way is so deadly and so detrimental and so substance altering, so mind altering, so psychological altering, so bloodthirsty, so detrimental. You have no idea, folks. You have no idea what's coming your way. I hope you do. And you may think, no, you don't know, we know more than you do. No, it's the other way around. I know more than you do. How do I know that? Because I observe white people here, I observe black people, I observe every people that come here. And talking to them and hearing them talk and move about and so on and so forth, I clearly discern that they don't know what's going on, folks. I listen to them on YouTube, on TV, and hear them. They don't know, folks. Those who know are guilty of being silent, are guilty of not speaking out, are guilty of not resisting, are guilty of not rousing people into resistance. So during the pandemic, quote unquote, I don't know how long it's been, 2 years, just over 2 years, right? Trillions were stolen. That pandemic is linked to cryptocurrency, is linked to the invasion of Europe by those Pustalinese, the lizard eye cabal of Moscow. Is linked to too many things, folks. There is something in the works. If you cannot put things together and connect the dots, and if you cannot see how the confluence of events and the concurrency of events, you're not an observant type, like you can clearly see something is in the works, and suddenly that thing has stumbled. It has stumbled number of times so far. I see those people being so worried and so concerned that this master plan of doing so and so that has been in the works for so long has come to a halt, almost to a halt now, and they're trying desperately to raise it up. And don't ever think, you Ukrainians, with all these hypes and statements and rhetoric about supporting you, about not appeasing tyranny, about, that it means there is a shift in the position of the West. No, folks, there is not. They are desperately trying to reverse the situation and allow or make Pustalini succeed in their drive into Western Europe. That, believe me, and that they will not change for a long time. They will not change at all. You may say, well, they acknowledged the facts on the ground and now they're only looking for a face-saving situation for Pustalini. No, folks, this is an interim or temporary move. What they're doing is maneuvering, is like redoing things. That's all. They will not change strategy. There's only one way about it for you to survive this poison on wheels, this hell on wheels, this train of terror that's barreling toward you in the West, and that's by fighting back, by really, really, really fighting back, donating weapons or giving weapons to the Ukrainian army and the Ukrainian armed forces. Avoid those the Zelenskys and whatnot, because they're, believe it or not, they're friends of Pustalini, friends and brother of Pustalini. But nonetheless, they just don't have full control of the country or the armed forces, and the fight is on, right? But now, that said, I am telling you, folks, nothing have changed, nothing will change. I know those creatures from hell. I know them very well. You don't understand how vehement and incessant they are about destruction and about taking over the world and putting it back into a farm of animals. You may think that I have caught the opposite end, meaningly, I'm looking at it from a point of view that is different from yours. No, folks, it is when you switch and make a, turn your head all the way back like an owl, like they say, like 180 degrees, and look from the opposite end, the other end, then you will see it, folks. What is being done to you is not just me, it's being told by others, and you may think that this was overactive imaginations of conspiracy theorists who put things together and made some money on their books and so. No, no, folks, it is real. It is real. You should have observed it ever since communism was born, ever since communism was manifested. And communism was not something new, but it was a method of subduing the masses. And you may say, subduing the masses. Well, look at the Soviet Union itself. And lucky enough, it was destroyed in Afghanistan. While Afghanistan was largely responsible, like for destruction of the Soviet Union and, those Middle Eastern and Afghan, like fighting them. But there are other elements. Their fundamentals were flawed, right? They couldn't exist and continue as a society as is. But that they have corrected. Now you, human beings living in Western Europe or Middle East or anywhere else, you will be converted into something animalistic, right? And live with less means and less afford less means and whatever it is. And that portrayal is nothing new, like living in slums and take enough to eat and practice your sexuality like animals and eventually what you will do is they will allow that brain to function enough to squeeze ideas and efficiency from, to squeeze ideas and thoughts and so on from, but meantime you still have to live like animals. That's how they think, folks. I have seen that with that evidence time and again, that their main purpose is to put you back into an animalistic state, but not fully animal, so they can still squeeze ideas and knowledge out of your mind, and that they use to further control you and improve their situation, right? How is their situation? Oh, well, you get it. We're talking billionaires and so on. And during that pandemic, there was, I said you can relate and you can connect between the pandemic and cryptocurrencies and invasion of Europe and destruction in the Middle East and here and there. At the same time, there is a financial apocalypse taking place, and that has been taking place for a while. All right. So, case in point, if you have any conscience in you, whether you're in an establishment in Europe, in Germany, in the Baltics, or in Europe, Eastern Europe, Southern Europe, Northwestern Europe, if you're in the establishment and you're under duress, and you have a carat weight of size or weight of an atom weight of conscience, you would tell your people and allow them to defend themselves. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, because if you're afraid, fear kills people. Fear kills. This is an ancient knowledge, and it was known long time ago. Fear kills, folks. Don't fear the consequences. Don't fear the reaper. Remember, don't fear the reaper. Don't fear consequences, folks. Now is the time for you, no matter what you are, no matter what your position in society, is to wake up your people and tell them that so and so is happening. Don't worry. Don't worry. No one is going to harm you. You may lose some money. What the heck? You rescued your own nation, your own people, your own society, your own heritage, your own but the most important and salient element that you will be rescuing and salvaging is the future of your nation and the people and so on and so forth. This is not overdoing it, folks. You may think I'm overdoing it. I'm not even overdoing it. I'm underdoing it, right? And your politicians, your bankers, your professors, your political enthusiasts, your realistic folks, they do know that stuff, folks. You just can't sit back and relax and wait until things happen. The opportunity that was given to you in Ukraine is big thing. It just doesn't come every day. This thing doesn't come every I don't know, like 1,000 years, 100 years, or something like that. Ukraine bought you time. Those Ukrainians, defenders and armies and conscripts and freedom fighters and so on, they bought you time, folks, to think and know what's going on. At the same time, you saw the behavior of Mussolini in Ukraine, the destruction of cities and so on. That will be no different for you, whether you're in Scandinavia or Germany, in particular these two. I said this before and I will say it again. What's coming your way is as a communist hoisting the communist flag, or Russian or a Soviet hoisting the communist flag with the slogan of exterminating Nazis. I'm not making this up. This is all over the media. This is in your news. This, your politicians are saying this and so on. They come and to denazify Europe, and that meaning Germanics and Scandinavians, and they're hoisting the communist flag. And if you remember the horrors of last century, you would like you couldn't be so pacifist. You couldn't be so complicit. You couldn't be so lethargic. You couldn't be so oblivious to things. You couldn't be so sleepy, so like slumbering and so on. You can't, folks, especially if you have children. You know, like, you wait until those guys are on top of your children. What do you think they're gonna do? They are killing children in Ukraine. They are killing children in Syria. Oh, you have no idea what they've done in Chechnya and Syria and Afghanistan. They murdered millions of people, hundreds of thousands of them, just plain family. When those Soviets came into Afghanistan, and their alliance, the Northern Alliance, that Northern Alliance of Shiites, of Hazara, they were their allies, they were their brothers, right? And they swept over the country. There was no Taliban, there was no Qaeda, there was no ISIS, there was nothing. And they were killing millions, folks. They would enter a village and they kill everybody and leave. It's that simple, folks. You may be deceived thinking that this is old history. This history that you know about, that has been portrayed to you. It's false, folks. Much of it is false. Much of it is manufactured. Much of it is fabricated. Much of it is woven by some deceivers, right? By some people who practice deception and lies and deceit and so on. That's all there is to it, folks. You may think you may ask, are there such people, such creatures? Yes, there's even worse than that in humanity. People, and unfortunately they call themselves humans, and they prey on other humans like cannibals, right? Now, they don't just get it and eat them, but you know, they destroy them, they use them, and so on. There is evidence every day to that, folks. I can't emphasize enough on you, or impress enough on you, to show you what's coming your way. You cannot play dumb or look the other way or say, I don't want problems on my hand, or I don't want to escalate. You cannot be more wrong, folks. You will be the next victim. If you allow Pustaline to succeed in Ukraine, you are the next victim. It's that simple. And what's happened in Ukraine and what happened... Now listen to this. Pustaline is trying to control themselves. Why? Because they don't want... They're trying hard not to show Europeans their intentions in destroying Europe. And if they can't get away, they will. With it, they will. But believe me, ultimately, if they fail completely, they will turn every city in Europe, from Berlin to Stockholm to Kiev and so on. They keep sending airplanes until they turn it into rubble, just like Aleppo, just like other cities in Syria. Just like Germany in World War II. World War II in Germany, that firestorm, what did it do to you guys? What did it do to you? Now you may say, but that's an example to avoid conflict. You cannot avoid conflict, folks. If you allow them to come in, you will make it easy on them to animalize you. You know, to really do the job and really kill and maim and so on. At least defend yourself. Here's the motto, you know, like, and this has come up in the past. Why do some Americans have a gun in their house? Because they say, if somebody breaks in, if I have a weapon, you know, I'll make them pay, right? So there's a chance of you surviving if you fight back. Or there's a chance of you, if you're gonna have to perish nonetheless, if somebody breaks into your house, if you have to perish, give them the fight of a lifetime. Why? Because they're coming in anyway, right? So the thing is, they're trying to hold back, not to alarm and alert and put the establishments of Europe into trouble. Like, look, Russia is destroying like cities and so on, like killing mass civilians like Syria, and you're standing by now. The establishments in Europe will be like, their back will be to the wall. You know, they don't know what to do, because now they have to defend against this Russian invasion. They keep giving you this, that NATO territory will be defended. I assure you, folks, if they mean to defend NATO territory and NATO membership territory, of the NATO members, they will intervene now in Ukraine and start fighting Russia. Because look at the Cold War, folks. Look at the Cold War. It didn't need NATO for United States and the West in general to fight against Russia anywhere, right? This is a well-known strategy and tactics and behavior on behalf of leaders in the West and everywhere. You can't just wait and say, "Oh, I have NATO. That's all I will defend." Because there's already a fight going on, and the fight is gonna come to you, so you don't allow it to come to your borders. I said this before. You either fight them now at Ukraine's border, or you fight them later at your own border. Now you may say, well, there's success in Ukraine and so on, so it's no problem. You fight them off. You can't be more wrong, folks. You just cannot be more wrong. If you consider, because now you can clearly see, again, I said this before, you can clearly see that NATO, EU, ECB, United States, Feds, whoever it is, they're helping Ukraine. I mean, they're helping Russia, right? They're helping Russia against Ukraine. China, Gulf Arab countries, I mean, you and Erdogan and whoever it is, they are helping to Stalin against Ukraine. Enough said. Folks, there is incendiary, destructive future looming on the horizon. That's coming, moving in and drifting slowly from the east toward you. I keep telling you it will not happen, and I know it will not happen, but not if you consider it a military parade and you sit down on the sidewalk and watch all these tanks and airplanes and orcs and whoever it is move in. Because if you do, suddenly the next thing you're gonna know is they start turning the guns toward you, those you spectators, and start firing. What are you gonna do then? Just run? All right. Point. I'm gonna repeat the same point again. America, white America in particular, white America fought Nazism in World War II because Nazism, they were indoctrinated and told it was a tyranny. True, it was a tyranny. Not of the nature that you think it was. There is a lot of misrepresentation of what it was and the facts and so on. And it was a horrific movement. Sister of Nazism, sister of communism, sister of Muslim Brotherhood, sister of the Iran Revolution, and they all spring from the same root. And all that happened in Europe, all that happened in Africa, all that happened in Asia, and they're all related, they're all connected, not by chance, not by concept, but physically and the sense of belonging to whoever, creation by way of administration, by way of ownership, by way of purpose. They all spring from the same root, and that root now has always been called Zion, and now it's called headquartered in Israel. Lo and behold, suddenly there is an official office, right? Formal office. But anyways, that's what it is, folks. So the point of whites going and sacrificing in the millions, probably, I think so. Whether it's in Asia, whether it's in Europe, and so on. It was fighting tyranny, of course, fighting for freedom and liberty and democracy in the United States, right? Americans are a little bit deceived about these concepts. Ever since Abraham Lincoln, that was the Civil War was basically a concealed military coup, folks. It was a takeover of a country. Robert E. Lee is a brother of Ulysses Grant, and they're all brothers of Abraham Lincoln. Believe me, that's what it was. There's that shadow, that's like hunchback shadow, moving around the walls and above the ceilings and so on and so forth. If you're looking for UFOs and other entities like devils and so on and so forth, trying to detect them by way of those infrared machines or whatever it is, those people who go like into abandoned and neglected places and they start trying to detect like haunted houses, spirits and so on. Done, folks. They're walking all over the street. They're in governments. They're the Ulysses Grant. They're the Robert E. Lee, and there is what's his name? The Abraham Lincoln, and after them there is the Roosevelt. That's them, folks. You don't need special apparatuses and sensors to detect them. They're there. But that's another subject, folks. That's another subject. the Civil War in America suddenly it's all too clear. I've been like it was processing in the background of my mind ever since I began to learn about it, I don't know, 4 years ago. And eventually things fell together, and the building is, the picture is very clear, like very, very clear. Anyways, despite all their sacrifices, those white Americans. Now, I'm not saying black America. Why? Because, and this is not racism. Black America sacrificed as well, and they were there. We all know about the Tuskegee experiments, and that was a very specific pandemic targeted at very specific race. Do you remember that, folks? Do you remember that? Do you remember that? Yes, yeah. Let me hear it. Okay, you remember that. So now, those white Americans are still being sent after World War II. Before that, World War I. After World War II. After World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, and Afghanistan, and Iraq, and the Middle East, and here, and there, and Syria, and. White America will always be sent to war, right or wrong, and it's all wrong. And when they go about killing Iraqis and Syrians, Vietnamese, Germans in World War II and so on, believe me, folks, it's victim killing victim. That's all there is to it. At one point back in history, certain element of humanity decided that life is too hard, and the best way to go about it is to become cannibal, virtually speaking. Enslave others, make yourself their god, and live without worries, right? I don't think it's without worries, but nonetheless, that's what it is, folks. That is what it is. That is exactly what it is. Life is hard, it's competition, and so on and so on. But now let's come back to the point. This point being, white America has never been rewarded for that. Well, what is the reward I'm talking about here? I'm not talking about money and stuff like that, but they're not left alone and considered as people who fought to free the Jews from this Nazism and so on and so forth. No. They're not left alone. They're dubbed as racist. They're isolated. Their wealth has been stolen by this financial apocalypse of stock market and its, that Netanyahu stock market and its leaders, and those leaders in the Congress and in the White House and in the Senate and here and there, who are now brothers of this investment beast, right? They are not left alone, folks. They are accused of being racist. Can't be farther from the truth. I know white people. I talk to them and so on. They may have resentment, but they may be isolationist, but they never consider you not human being. And that you cannot blame somebody for. If somebody, whoever is black or white or Asian or anything in between, such as out of color. If you don't want to mix with somebody else, or even a race, regardless of your consideration, that's your business, right? If you don't want to marry this particular woman, if you don't want to marry this or you don't want to become a friend of this particular person, if you don't want to share with this particular person, regardless of how you feel about them, but even if you felt a human being, and nobody knows what's in the mind, right? Except the creator of the mind. That's their business, folks. It's nobody's business. Only when it comes on to transgress on the liberty and personal space of the other, invasion of the freedom and privacy of the other, is when there should be intervention, right? Whites don't do that, folks. Whites have been isolated. Whites are the modern inventors of computers and so on. Old computers were Arabs, those astrolabes, and the first time gears appeared and so on. And they used their differential calculus on it. But modern day industrial revolution, that's Anglo Saxon. So they've taken it from them. It's like they've taken their inventions, they've taken their patents, gave it to China, making money off it, and whites are completely deprived of it. Their businesses are failing, their savings are gone. Everything that's happening to whites, and they're dubbed as white racists, as white supremacists, as racists, as militias, as as evil people, and so on. And they are portrayed in the psyche of all people that they're bad things. You know, like even the drug industry, they try to say they have instigated it because they had monopoly on wealth. That can't be farther from the truth, folks. I mean, I'm not saying white people are perfect or Arab people are perfect. No, by no means I'm saying that. But what have they been accused of, and what have they been? How have they been treated? Is saddening. It's tragic, folks. Now they're in masses. You know, they're being isolated. They're losing their jobs. Even those who come from abroad, I noticed from certain countries way outside, and they come and take their jobs of computers, the very computers they invented, right? They have bad attitude toward them. You know, here you got that. Take a resource X and resource Y and resource Z, say from Asia or anywhere else. Or, you know, they come and take the job of the person who invented this thing. Not just that, they curse them too. You know, like, hey, got what you got. Now you go and leave. And they accuse them of things that are not true. And now, when they go to war, here you got people, those who are sending them to wars, they're becoming billionaires by way of IPOs that are paid for by executive orders and raising debt limits and Obamas and Trumps and Bidens and Clinton and whoever it is, right? Right. And they're sending those people, and they're becoming billionaires, right? And they're sending those people, white people, to fight wars in Iraq and Syria and here and Afghanistan. And when they come back here, they become homeless, and they have postpartum depression, you know, like post-traumatic syndrome disorder, PTSD, and they're committing suicide, and they become like ill from wars and so on. And these wars in the Middle East are there to assure or secure the rule over those people, Muslim people, by Israel, right? And not just that, when they come here, and this is their country, right? This is the country they built. Now Obama comes and says, and his wife, right? Those falashas, and they say that they didn't build it. The whites didn't build it. That they, blacks and Asians and Chinese, built it. How so? How can you prove that, folks? How can you prove that? Sure, there was plantations, we worked the fields. Sure, the Chinese came here and made the laundries and so on. But the main instigators, the main makers of this America were really Anglo Saxons. Now, how am I being unfair to you guys? Well, let me see. Slavery, folks. Let's not talk about Chinese who came here. And there are not many, really. Like laundry and washers and so on. You know, you see them in the movies and you see them in documentaries, some history and so on. But let's talk about the blacks. Black folks now, some of them, know that the story of slavery is not as black and white as it is being told and taught to them. I read some facts about slavery being the business of the very same traders, of the very same makers who made slavery in the Ottomans, under the Ottomans, and who made slavery elsewhere, right? Who traded with slaves and so on elsewhere. Yeah. Now it's very obvious. You know, those southern plantation and who they are. Oh man. Not just that. Now the white race is made to bear this slavery, the guilt of slavery, similar to the Germans being made to bear the stigmatized and bear the stigmata of Nazism. You know, like generation after another. And I don't think so long the status quo is as is. You know, Germans will always be attacked as branded as Nazis and something they have to hide from, right? Same thing, white race in America. Now I know at least 90% of it was not really white. No? Well, something similar to white. You know, like a little bit darker here with some butter, and caramel here, like color, and then butter here. You know what I'm talking about, right? You know what I'm talking about. So that's white America, folks. White America will always be like that so long this establishment of Mussolini is in Washington and Berlin and Russia and here and there. And that's nothing you can get rid of it easily. But the future holds good, good news, glad tidings. Uh, I cannot make this more clear. Now, some of you may come and say, you're a little bit polemic about Israel. I'm just stating the facts, folks. You keep talking about Nazism, you keep talking about communism, you keep talking about white racism, you keep talking about ISIS, you keep talking about Taliban, you keep talking about Qaeda, you could keep talking about Islamic terrorism, Muslim global war on Islam. I'm sorry, I mean terrorism. You keep talking about those Nazis, you keep talking about militias, you keep talking about and. Right? But whenever you talk about anything, you are circumventing and skipping over the real problem, folks. And if you're unable to address it, I have no qualms and fear of addressing this point. The main culprit behind all that is Zion and Israel. I'm not afraid to make the point, folks. I'm not afraid to make the point. And by the time you start acknowledging that, is when you begin to really know how to resolve the problem. I look here in the United States and all those Israelis, who profess to be Jews and so on and so forth. You can clearly see they're as if they're Russian citizens, right? As if they're post-Stalinine citizens. But you're American, you're Western European. Hell, I watched one yesterday whose parents come from Belarus and Ukraine, right? A very well-known personality. Oh, there's no doubt where he stands. He stands with post-Stalinine against Ukraine and the rest of Europe. Not just that, he blames the West for not making compromises with him and so on, and he basically, and that's Noam Chomsky, right? And that to him, Trump was right, about appeasing post-Stalinine and so on and so forth. But you're an American, right? You're a Westerner, supposedly, right? Why do you stand with him? And that's only an example, folks. You look at each and every Noam Chomsky, Noam Chomsky in the United States and in New York, in the Middle East, and here and there. And there are quite few. They all have the same position and attitude, and they all have the same stand on this, and that they want Mussolini to win this war. That's where the problem is, folks. Even Kissinger, even Zelensky, even all of them are standing with Mussolini for one reason alone. Because the establishment in Moscow, that lizard eye cabal of Moscow, is 100% Israeli. Make no mistake about that. And notice, they started telling some facts about Hitler being Jewish. Now you may say, why do they want to make such a dumb statement? Well, because they want to distract you from whoever they are. Two, they want to arouse hatred in the heart of the Russian fighter, soldier, conscript, so that they can kill more Ukrainians. Why? Because Russian, they inherited this communism. And in the mind of the world, the founders of communism and its leaders up until now are Jews, Israelis. From Karl Marx to Engels to Trotsky, through Stalin, through Lenin, through all the way to Brezhnev, and then after Brezhnev, Boris Yeltsin, and Medvedev, and then Mussolini. That's what it is. So Russians do know that, and they think they're taking it out on it. So it's to confuse the masses, to put like hatred in their heart. Russians know. Russians' priorities in fighting a war in Ukraine are complete. I discovered this right very clearly. Russian soldier priority in fighting a war in Ukraine or elsewhere is completely different from what Pustalinians think about them or think they know about them. Here, their gravities are completely different. So that's that, folks. I'm not afraid to make the point. If you're afraid to make the point, hey, guess what? You're gonna live in the shadow. You're gonna live in alcoves, nooks and caves and nooks and cranny all your life as a nation, as an individual. The moment you begin to address the point and point at the real guilty party, the better chances you have of being liberated and then destroy the mess that is dominating you about who is who and what is what, right? So I'm not afraid to make it. Notice, like, and here is a fact for you, Westerners. We all know Israel controls the United States government. Period. In fact, whenever the United States goes to a war in the Middle East or anywhere else, Israel sends them. There is no longer real independent government in the United States or elections or freedom. Now, period. Period. Ever since John Kennedy, well before that, right? But that was a slow coup, slow military coup, starting with what's his name, Abraham Lincoln, right, and his minions here and there, and they pretended to fight this North and South war, but the top leadership between the two North and South were really two branches of Lincoln, who was really an Israeli. How do I know? One day I was reading his biography, and one of his grandfathers, it's called Mordechai. All right, you want to be a slave? Well, be a slave. Dog of the yeah, start woofing and run and so on and live like a pig and so on. Oh man, I see people here, the young generation. Oh man, they're so destroyed. Anyways, so I'm not afraid to make the point. If you're afraid to make any point, then you're not an effective person. You're not an independent person. You're not a reliable person. You're not you're not participating in life, in society, in future, in history. You're not. Let's put it this way: if you try to avoid realities and facts, you're not even participating in humanity. Period. You have been isolated, either by yourself, and or others, and most likely others, but it's really a combination of the two. Somebody comes at you, and then you respond to them. So you're a partner in isolating yourself, trying to avoid the truth. Stay safe, out of trouble, and so on and so forth. John Kennedy, and many things he said that killed him. Should not. He said he was quoting Solon, the Greek philosopher. It's not him who said that. I know who said it. It's not him. He said you cannot shrink from controversy. Now, controversy here means saying something truth that brings the anger of others, those that you're trying to point at. So I'm not going to shrink from controversy, and I think you, whoever you are, wherever you are, should not shrink from controversy. Back to Europe. People, this is a comprehensive strategy. Fail, but those guys, those Netanyahus will not give it up. They're going to try again and again and again, and the entire West is helping them financially, militarily, intelligence, social, you name it. They are basically putting everything they can and making everything they can to make Mussolini take over Europe. That's what it is, folks. So now is the time to fight. If you're in an establishment in Europe, I really wish if you have some conscience left in you, no matter who you are, what you are, you would let your people know and turn them loose to defend themselves. If they're gonna come, make it very difficult, make it deadly, make it bloody on them to come in. And believe me, these Pustalinians, they will not even come close if they can see that you're gonna fight back. That's how cowardice fills their heart, man. They're like, They flinch at anything and everything. That's why they always retreat back behind the curtains and become unseen behind the scene. Otherwise, believe me, I have been observing them for a long time. They cannot function any other way. And they convince themselves that this is intelligence, that this is so and so, that, but it's not, folks. They try to cover it up, they try to give it names, and they try to give it explanations, and to cover for it. That's not what it is, folks. What it is, the only way for you to come out of this unseen behind the scene and abandon this cannibalism against fellow man is really to face up and reality and so on and so forth, and fight the fight. If I was one of you, and I'm talking about those Zionist establishment, and I'm glad I'm not one of you, I would disabuse you very quickly. I would dissolve that whole bad edifice and allow people to take their chances and fight in their own and compete in their own daily life against everybody else and be friends of everybody else. But I can't. I know that I can't. I cannot. Point. Where the establishments are, or Zion, or this octopus, financial, political, military octopus, where they are, they cannot go back, folks. Where you are as a citizen, the other, let me call it the other. And who is the other? You're the genitalias. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean the Gentiles. You're the heathen, you're the goyim, you're the talking animal, you're the refined monkey, Remember Planet of the Apes? You guys think this is just an idea? Planet of the Apes, folks. Those apes is a metaphor, but it's them ruling and running the show, and they're trying to show you. They're trying to show their own ranks that you cannot be lax, pacifist, and non-observing, and not in control of the other. Charlton Heston wearing a monkey suit, like long beard, the long beards, of Osama bin Laden, and that headgear and so on, that the old Judea and Samaria. That's what Osama bin Laden dressed like, Bin Laden and Zawahiri, all those very long beards, and those headgears, long beards, down here. He said, and I quote, Charlton Heston, those sub-ape humans, and so on. And he was like making it like a joke, right? Have a nice day, my friends. And know this: if you allow Ustarinin to succeed in Ukraine, you, Poland, you, Germany, you, Baltics, Eastern Europe, will become the next Ukraine. Trust me on this. There's only one way for you to push this war back, and that is to fight in Ukraine now. Arm Ukraine, arm the people of Ukraine, arm the defenders of Ukraine, because they're defending you. All right, point. I said goodbye. No, well, point. Then, since they started this movement into Western Europe by Russia, that big leg of Israel called Ustarinins, like those lizard eye cabal of Moscow. You may laugh at this definition of lizard eye cabal of Moscow. Don't laugh, folks. Lizards have these primitive psyche and look on life, and all they understand is eating, devouring. Heck, if you look at, go watch some of that, those footage taken in the Komodo Dragon Island. Hell, the Komodo dragons, They even eat younger dragons, or those big lizards, right? But then you should see them, they're so primitive. It gives you the notion that these guys live their brain is 100% programmed for food, no matter what it is, even if it's another dragon. Uh, they have nothing else to live for, really. That's why I use that term, because I looked at the Pustarini from their inception and from their birth. Karl Marx, Lenin, Stalin, Trotsky, Engels, all the way, and they're brothers of greed, all the way to Pustarini now. I look at them and I see nothing different from those dragons. All they understand is devouring, is absorbing, is stealing, is blaming, is killing, and so on and so forth. But now, since they started this operation against Europe, they're trying to hint at nuclear war. I'm going to make 2 points about that. The first point is this. I assure you, they will not use it. Because if they use nuclear weapons, it'll be, they themselves will be its victims too. Two, they're projecting that Pustarini is sick. Sometimes, cancer and so on. And I think he is, right? Maybe he's not even alive. And that he is sick and that he's suffering from, sometimes they say blood cancer, sometimes, I heard like real reliable resources telling me it's intestinal cancer and so on and so forth. Why are they telling you that? Because they're trying to put in your psychology indirectly, project into your unconscious that this man is dying. He may simply decide to press the button and take the world with him, right? Because he's dying, so he's not gonna lose. Folks, it can't be farther from the truth. Don't believe all that bullshit. Not about his sickness, not about his life or death, regardless of his situation. Number one, he can't just press buttons. There are people around him, I'm sure at one point they will reject the offer, right, or the command. Why? Because projectiles are gonna fly back into them, right? So don't be scared of that, folks. And if you avoid and if you appease Pustarini because you're scared of these innuendos, of these hints at nuclear war, guess what's gonna happen, right? He's gonna come and use it time and again, time and again. So that's that, folks. Two, how long are you gonna live under this threat? Every time the robber comes into your store, pulls the gun and you give him no money. Eventually, you will be working in your store or your business, or somebody comes like an investor, becomes the CEO in your company, right? Like it or not, right? The business that you own, right? Somebody sends somebody to be the CEO of your company, like it or not. Otherwise, they will shut you down or accuse you of being a pedophile or whatever it is, right? And then you give in, right? What do you think is going to happen? He's going to own your business in no time at all. He's going to flush you out, and they may even, out of the business and own it, and eventually you end up like homeless or whatever it is left, if they allow you to live. That's what's going on now. So how long are you going to live under the shadow of threat? You can't, folks. Why? Because it's going to be a never-ending assault on you. Every time they hint and they wave their nuclear and ballistic missiles and whatever it is, you give them a country and then they come the next day and do the same thing. What do you think? You can't live under that threat, folks. You can't live under the shadow of nuclear threat. But I assure you, they will not use it. I assure you from the bottom of my heart, from the top of my heart, they will not use it. Those people, folks, the Pustarinis, from the bottom of their bottle, them as a bottle, until the top of their head, the cork, right? They're filled with hatred and cowardice and greed and you name it, folks. And if you tell them the truth, which is the truth about themselves, they get offended, right? They immediately attack you. They never reason, really, because reasoning for them is problematic. It's considered weakness. Reasoning, being realistic, practical, pragmatic, utilitarian, and it's all that problem for them, folks. First thing they teach their offsprings is to remove all that reason from their minds and act as if the other is nothing but a subject to be devoured. That's all. Maimed, hurt, and so on and so forth. It's in their mind, folks. There is a drift. A few thousand years back, many thousand years back, there was genetic mutation and drift, and it didn't create two different species that could no longer interact and intermarry. Right? No, it kept them very close, but there is a genetic drift and mutation in the mind that made one small part become cannibal on the other part. That's what's going on now. And to me, it looks like even if that part which got mutated into this cannibal, no matter how much they intermarry with the other, the rest of humanity, it's not doing any good, folks. That feeling, that morbid feeling that dominates them from within is still there. It's not going away. I don't think it'll go away. Even if you take them and marry them with other people, so much. The only success that happened, and some of them really got away from that mentality, is really during Islam, early Islam. Many of them abandoned these ways and means, and they don't even know themselves anymore. They're mainly in Asia and the Middle East. Middle East mainly, and Asia, and some of them in Europe later. But no, it is a mutation, folks. It is really definitely a mutation. Like many years back, many thousand years back, the humanity basically split. Some people were isolated, and they developed this mentality, this psychological genetic drift and makeup that basically makes them look at others as a prey, and they're not changing. It is a physical mutation. You can still intermarry with them. They look like you. Well, almost. But it's a genetic mutation, folks. Genetic drift. Now I can say, have a nice day, my friends. And if you care about your future and that of your posterity, of your country, of your heritage, of your healthy life, meaning devoid of hatred of the others and these considerations of ugly consideration of the other, cancellation of the other, that's healthy if you do remove all that from your mind and your soul. Then you act now, or don't have children, folks. And it's okay, Sometimes if the world is not fixable and you see it's going downhill, and you don't want your posterity, your posterity to be part of it, don't have children. Have a nice day, my friends, and good day today.